Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can anybody hear us on Zoom?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, we're good to go, Ken. Thank you.
Can those of you on Zoom hear us now? Anybody?
We got it, Kim. This is Aaron.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we'll begin this meeting of the Columbia Development Authority, and if we could go around the room and do introductions. And I'm Kim Pusey, General Manager of the Port of Umatilla and Chair of the CDA.
Joe Taylor, Port of Morrow Commissioner. Jeff Winholtz, Morrow County Commissioner.
John Taylor, Umatilla County Commissioner. Joel Peterson, Port of Morrow alternate.
Bob Blanc, Port of Umatilla alternate.
I'm Fred Ziari, engineer of record for CDA.
Ty Lord, Engineer of Record for CDA with IRZ Consulting. Greg Smith, Columbia Development Authority.
Emily Collins, CDA.
Thank you. Commissioner Doherty.
Emily Doherty, Port of Morrow.
Tom Roberts, Fire Chief, Area Environment.
Michelle Lanigan, Private.
Steve Williams, representing Beaver Farming.
Jerry Simpson.
Ryan DeGroff, Business Oregon.
Barrett Thorson, East Oregonian.
And how was the sound on that, Aaron? Could you hear the introductions, or do we need to speak a little louder if we're in the back?
I got it okay. Thanks, Kim.
Yes, perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we have a public comment period. We'd like to limit to 3 minutes per speaker. If anyone has a comment that they'd like to make, please, Chief.
Again, for the record, Tom Roberts, I'm the Fire Chief for Indian Rural Fire Protection District. And first off, I wanted to thank Greg Smith. He's done a wonderful job, I think, coming forward and communicating with fire districts locally in regards to the need for fire protection on the Columbia Development Authority properties. And it's been great to work with. I just wanted to go on record as saying that we still wish to make it very clear to everybody our intent to move forward with annexation of all CDA properties under ORS 478. This is again pending the completion of legal review. However, we believe that we have statutory abilities to do this because of our distance with the CDA properties. I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I thought I was going to make it through at least one item before we made a mistake, but we didn't introduce the people who are online. Aaron, I can see your face. Would you mind introducing yourself first, and then we'll go across the top?
You've already called me out a few times, Kim, but I'm Aaron Palmquist, the City Manager of Aragon. Thanks, Kim.
Doug Olson, County Council of Umatilla.
Thank you.
I'm Nick Gotts. I'm the training site manager for the Reese Training Center here at the National Guard.
Thank you.
This is Andy Lindsay with Anderson Perry.
Brad Baird with Anderson Perry.
John, Port of Morrow Commission.
JD Tubby.
This is JD Tubby, C2IR and CDA board member.
Mike Hughes. And there's a couple phone numbers.
Okay, thank you. And Lisa?
Lisa Middlestorm, Port of Morrow.
And someone else came in with Lisa.
Rebecca Ramos, I'm with Anderson.
All right, thank you. Did everyone understand the ORS that the chief was talking about sufficiently, or any clarification? John, please.
It's not a clarification on the ORS, Mr. Chair. It's just a question I have for Mr. Roberts or Chief Roberts. My apologies. You said you want to annex all CDA properties or just on your side of the county line? Did you clarify that for me?
Yeah, just on the Morrow County side.
On Morrow County. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have a question about that? All right, more public comments, anyone? All right, thank you. We will move to the consent agenda and Greg, unless you're opposed or if anybody has opposition, we can do that all together. Just
Question.
please, Commissioner.
On these agendas here, you have the executive session approval of minutes. I've never seen that done otherwise. Is it something that you just have done?
I think we'd be better off if we took the executive session minutes off the consent agenda. Director, are you okay with that?
Please do.
Okay.
That'd be,
Thank
do
you.
that.
So we're talking about the consent agenda minus item B, which are the consent, the executive session minutes. So
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Well, two things. The one on my computer, I can open this, but on the tablet, I can't. It's item A, the minutes from October 22nd. I keep saying unable to open document, but in there, in the minutes, there's a couple corrections I want to make.
Okay.
One is cereal is spelled incorrectly when it talks about the cereal meeting. It's spelled like breakfast cereal instead of cereal. And then at one point it says vice chair, SHAIR, not chair, so.
Got it, voted, thank you.
And we're sure that that wasn't Nabisco or Post or Kellogg's.
I was probably hungry while time.
Okay.
Everybody's trying to type this word for word.
Assuming there are a lot of calls going on among the board members about their preferred breakfast. Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, I'd point out for the number of words she typed, having more corrections.
Pretty good. All right, thank you. Any other comments before we move to the consent agenda? Okay. Someone like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda with those changes.
Thank you.
I wasn't at the meeting, so I didn't know if it's appropriate for me to second the motion on the minutes, so I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay. Motion and no second on the consent agenda, really? Or did you not second?
No, I wasn't at the meeting, so I didn't.
Oh, okay.
It's appropriate
I didn't
for
know
me
you said.
to
Okay.
approve minutes, so I wasn't there. Motion to approve minutes, so I wasn't in attendance.
So we got JD, you and
Yep.
John.
JD, you want to second that?
No. I didn't get a chance to review all these. I was reviewing the rest of the documentation, so I didn't get a chance to review. I'll be honest, I didn't get to review the minutes. So I'm not super comfortable in seconding it right now. I spent most of my time reading the audit and the other documentations later in the agenda.
I can't open this meeting, so I want to make sure that it's the same as what I review, I mean, without.
Yeah, no worries.
So by approving these, are we also approving the minutes from July 23rd?
The 22nd.
All that we have on the agenda today is the minutes of October 22nd. That's the board meeting. The executive session minutes have been removed. There have been some typographical corrections made. We're talking about item C with the East Bank of EO statements and the Port of Morrow ledger. That's what we're talking about here. And a motion has been made. Anybody want to make a second? I don't want to be an auctioneer here.
Mr. Chair, question, I'm reviewing these now, and so it appears that these were verbatim, were these taken verbatim from the audio?
Yes.
As best we
The answer
could,
is yes, that's the affirmative.
Mr. Chair, as best we could.
Yep, okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd second those two maps.
All right. Been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda with the exception of item B and with the corrections that have been so stated. Those in favor indicate by saying aye, and why don't we do a roll call, Emily, if you don't mind?
Okay, Kim, want to start?
Yep, aye.
Joe?
Aye.
I,
John?
Yes.
JD?
Yes.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Information and reports, and I'm going to look to you, Director Smith, for these items.
Perfect. I'm immediately gonna toss the baton over to Fred and his team at IRZ. But before I do that, I would share with you what a strong collaboration we have with Fred and the work he's doing. In addition to that, we appreciate the work the counties have provided in getting us in assistance.
Thank you. Fred, thank you.
But thank you very much. I have two items to report. One is on the design of the road. The other one is the construction of the Oregon Trail. So I'm going to start with the update on Oregon Trail. Have our engineer Ty Lord give update.
Okay. As part of the programmatic agreement with the CDA, the CDA was required to construct two interpretive sites, the South Oregon Trail site and the 1944 UMCD Igloo accident site. And those two sites had to be constructed within 18 months following the Army's and the CDA's closing of the conveyance and transfer of the property. To meet these obligations, the CDA advertised the design build RFP in April. There was two proposals received, one from Rochke and one from Granite Construction. Granite Construction was selected and awarded in May, and then in July, Granite Construction presented a 30% design package to all the stakeholders that were part of that programmatic agreement for review and comments. Then in August, the State Historic Preservation Office and the Oregon Military Department granted an extension of time through December 31st of this year for the construction of those sites. And with that, the CDA then obtained zoning permits from Umatilla County and Morrow County for both the sites. 90% design package was submitted mid-November to the CDA for review, which incorporated all the comments from 30% design in July. And then final design drawings are planned to be submitted early next week, with construction following those within the same week next week. Currently, Granite is planning to have both sites constructed by the end of the year. The obligations.
Can you share with the board really quick what the cost of the Morrow County side of the project and the cost of the Umatilla side?
So, yep. Currently, the Umatilla County side is directly under contract for $235,000, and that's for the 1944 Igloo accident site. The South Oregon Trail, currently the engineering is under contract for $19,000, and the remaining, they're going to be submitting a change request to add the remainder of that in there. And they are estimating that total change order to be around $200,000. And we'll have that cost from Granite by the first of next week.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if I ask one more question?
Oh, no, please.
Kind of a leading question. So Michelle, to the best of your knowledge, once the Oregon Trail piece and the explosion site are completed, will that check the box of that portion of the programmatic improvement?
It should, I'm not really the person to answer
No,
that.
I know, but you work so closely with us. So it does check the box, okay? So that'll be a huge milestone for us. And as we work with our partners in DC, this will be all together.
Thank you. And Michelle, thank you for always being here. We appreciate it.
So just a clarification, so it'll be 200,000 total or 219,000 total?
Approximately 219,000. We don't, once we have the final numbers, we'll definitely give that to Greg and can share that with you.
And one more thing, our dates are okay as far as starting construction and all that.
Nobody reason we couldn't start construction.
Right now, as far as I'm aware, we can start construction on Umatilla County side. For Morrow County side, all we need is approval for that change order.
And all of this is with the exception that we don't have an income stream. Is that correct? Or
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
okay, all right. So we're good on item number one, the explosion site, the Oregon Trail. And Fred, do you have?
So, just as was stated here, we are ready to go, start construction next week. So if there is any, issues, budgetary issues or whatever, we like to make sure you let us know. We can sit down with you or any of the board member to really hash it out, because we don't have lots of time. In order to meet our deadline, it has to start by next week.
Okay, and we've got some more information on reports a little bit later, and we can cover that in greater detail. Fred.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. The next report is the east-west road design.
And this is under HB 2017, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We have done IRZ did we asked for a RFP. Anderson Perry has been selected to won the bid. And they have delivered to us the 10, 30, 60% design, and but they're about to finish the 200% design. And I have to say, we worked very, very closely with Anderson Perry, both Ty and I and our engineering team. It's been a good collaborative effort. I'm happy to report that we are on time and also 30% under the budget, which we really appreciated. Everybody working hard on that. So I have Andy Lindsay from Anderson Perry to give a quick report, and then we go from there. Thank you, Fred.
Sure. Thanks, Fred. Yeah, I'm Andy Lindsay with Anderson Perry, kind of the project manager for the Connector Road project. As Fred said, we're pretty much wrapped up with design, ready to get this thing out to bid. I just got kind of our final review set of plans on my desk yesterday, a couple days later than anticipated. So we're doing a quick internal review before we send those over to Fred and Ty, but we feel those are 99% ready to go. We do have a few cleanup things in contract documents, and we've discussed a couple of options with Ty and Fred regarding possibly doing a qualifications-based selection for construction contractor versus a traditional low bid process. So I sent some information over to Ty on that earlier today. And essentially the bottom line there is basically a quick review of that. And if everyone's comfortable with that, we're ready to get the thing out to advertise probably mid-December. Go through that selection process, and then award process and everything goes smoothly. Hopefully have a contractor on the ground by 1st of March. Ready to get this thing going. We do have a couple issues to clean up with ODOT there at the interchange on 82. We have to do an access change of access location there. And we just need to work through that process with ODOT. They're asking for some traffic information, which obviously we don't have any traffic information right now. So we've got to work with ODOT to sort that out. But that, we feel comfortable going out to bid. Anything that comes from that process will not change the design. We just won't be able to work on that section until that process is complete, but we're very comfortable moving forward while we finish working through that process. So that's kind of our quick and dirty update. As I said, we do have some contract language stuff that we need to kind of finalize, working with Ty and Fred on that. But otherwise, if the board's ready to move forward with this thing, we're ready to move forward and get it advertised and go to build it. So.
So Andy, few questions. Andy, can you share with us how the road design is being conducted in order to meet the needs of both counties?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me I can just share my screen real quick. That might be the easiest. Do you guys have access to a screen there where you can see?
Yes.
Is that showing up there for you?
One sec here.
Not online.
You guys
Mike,
can
you
see,
share?
can see
You
that?
try.
No.
Try it again.
I'm sorry, was that you guys can see the screen then?
No, we cannot, Andy. We can just see you right now.
Uh-oh, well.
Just working on that, can I ask you a quick question on the road? Is there gonna be an issue with the burrowing owls? That was an issue with the pipeline. We'll make sure it's not an issue. It's not. Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the outstanding questions we have for to work through, just if there's any other agreements or requirements that came out through the whole land transfer process that we're not aware of. If there's any spots that we need to avoid.
I think we could go ahead with this, Mr. Chair, with your permission.
Please.
The cost came, the total cost is about $12 million. We have $7 million from the state at hand. There is potential $5 million that Greg has discussed with you that potentially could go toward this. The design is for the entire, from interchange all the way to the west end of the Morrow County property. So it will cover the entire, as you can see, the entire corridor is designed and ready to be put onto the bid.
Correct.
We have discussed this several times with the board, and what I really like to do, we understand from what we've been told, and we follow that it needs to be 50% in Morrow and 50% in Umatilla County. We have discussed this several times, but what I really want to ask that is sit down with you with a maybe 1 or 2 hour work session to really go through this and make a path forward. Because right now, the money is not there, but there hasn't been a serious discussion about how to do it. We have a very good idea that we could sit down outside of this meeting with a couple of board members to just come up with a plan that agreeable with it.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. And that, I had another question and that I'm sure you can respond to. So I haven't received or looked at any information about the width of the road and the thickness of the asphalt, because, we have conversations about rock and gravel companies and so on and so forth. And the last thing we need to do is have them too thin and then the road goes away almost immediately because of, improper use, because we didn't plan ahead. So, yeah. Do you have a sense of how thick the asphalt is going to be and how wide the road is?
Yeah, Andy has
I
that.
can't see that very well. So,
Yeah, Andy, go ahead and describe it. So that
Yeah. This is our typical section, and we did do a full geotech report. We went out and did some test pits. looked at the existing conditions, so we make sure that structurally we're sound there. And you know, again, we don't necessarily have traffic volumes to project to, but we feel very confident that the section we're proposing is adequate for significant truck traffic for, you know, a period of 20 years or better. So this is the typical section of it. We're using a geogrid material, which helps reduce the section of aggregate base that's required under there. So that helps us reduce some costs there in aggregate base. So you'll see that ag base layer is 8 inches thick. Other cases or other situations, you may see that thicker. And the reason it's thinner is because we're using that geogrid material that's underneath there that provides additional strength. So that's really where we saw some significant cost savings. So at that section, and then 5-inch wearing course of asphalt on top of that. So we feel very comfortable that that's a adequate section for whatever needs we might see in the, you know, in the 15 to 20 year time frame.
Chair, please, Greg. Mr. Chair, that was the number one criteria, was making sure it was industrial developed. The second was, and we're on track, is to remain within budget.
Okay. Greg, I mean, Fred, Andy, team, Greg, thank you. Anything else, Fred?
As I mentioned, I really encourage one way or another, because it's an aggressive timeline. Mid-December, we are ready to go to put the RFP out, but if it is not happening, or if we can have some work session with a few of you, kind of work through this, because there's lots of stuff that needs to be taken.
Right. Okay.
One way or another, we stay flexible with you, but I think it would deserve a good work session.
All right. So noted. Michelle, you had something?
Yeah, just a quick question, that road going towards the west, is that gonna be usable during construction?
Let's see.
Have to get to the west
Yeah.
side.
You would.
Yeah, from the kind of the main depot entrance going to the west. That the new alignment, we tried to follow that existing roadway, you know, obviously as much as possible to minimize disruptions to other things. There's quite a few utilities out there, and you know, minimize earthwork. So that will be disrupted a little bit, but that obviously will be a requirement of the contractor to maintain access for those folks. Obviously we know there's traffic going out there to various locations. So that will be a requirement of the contractor to keep access open through there. It may be, you know, a little bit inconvenient, obviously, as they're building things, but it won't be cut off completely.
Anybody else, any questions? All right, Commissioner Doran came in during the introductions, and so welcome, Commissioner, glad to have you. Item B under the informational reports, I'm going to look to you, Greg, and for the Moore County Property Fire Services. We had a public statement about that. If you could elaborate a little bit, we appreciate
And
it.
I'm gonna actually ask Aaron if he'll join us as well. Aaron Palmquist, you there?
I'm here, Greg, sir.
So Mr. Chair, one of the challenges we're coming up upon is on the Morrow County side of the line, there's 2 fire districts. Both of them are excited to be partners with the CDA. And part of what I need from you folks is direction on this. Currently, the Boardman facility is much greater prepared. However, the irrigant facility really wants to be a partner, and they want to be able to bring to the table what they can offer. And so what I've been trying to navigate is a win-win situation for both parties. And I do not have a resolution yet, but we're working on that.
Okay, I don't want to step on a political landmine out there, but does Oregon participate in the enterprise zone, and do they have the potential for resources to make the expansion that would be necessary to be able to adequately serve that site? Or is this a conversation that is going on internally that you don't want to speak to, either one of you?
I would let Aaron answer that question. As
Does
it
that make
relates
sense,
to his
Aaron?
enterprise zone.
Currently, CDA board, and thanks, Greg, is that Oregon has the resources and the capability. We do not have any mapping that has been requested in the past. And working with the Port of Morrow, that needs to be elevated at a high and a faster level. I'll say that publicly. I will also say that there's been some political posturing, and that's got to stop. I'm going to push hard back against the boardman. It is not the county of Boardman, it's Morrow County. And the southwest area and even the 640 and the properties on the north side in Morrow County are very detrimental to the survival and the livability. And it can be done, the time frame, and for Oregon Fire to do that. I will say, and if Chief Roberts wants to elaborate, some exciting things, and Greg, you've been busy, but the fire department has made a position move publicly. They are in the process of acquiring property on the south side of 730, better known as between 6th, or I should say between Division and 7th. It was those rundown homes, Greg, if you remember that, which is owned, has been owned by Anna Tempe, and the Oregon Fire District is purchasing that property. There will be a new facility that will be built there. Property north of the Oregon Fire Hall has been offered to another developer. Progress is moving forward. I'd also like to say, Fred, we need to connect so that there is a north-south roadway that was in the original plans under the LRA to go north and south on the west side of the Army Depot. The city with the fire district is willing to look at that. How do we get and add strength to that? I will say again, yes, it's probably people wanting to be diplomatic, but you need to just set it aside and say, stop playing politics. And as an example, and I'm going to throw this out there, and for those that are there from the Port of Morrow, they have property on the west side of Boardman, and there is massive amount of data centers that are going in and are projected. They've got a tax base, they can do it, and they've been able to grow and build. The city of Oregon and our fire district, there's been some underhanded, I'll say that very candidly, posturing and movement. And I think that all parties need to come to the table. But the southwest area, and I will strongly say it and be aware there will be a forthcoming letter to all parties and also to those legal counsels that the city of Oregon strongly supports, have done it in the past, that southwest area by Morrow County and according to ORS be annexed into the Oregon Rural Fire Protection District. Chief Roberts, do you have anything to say?
I'll just add by, and I've mentioned this to Greg. This isn't about, who's professional, who's not. This is about the growth of the region and the what's equitable. Okay? And when you look at Oregon Fire Protection District, we are a couple steps behind where Boardman was, a few years back, and we need to be able to establish a footing so that we can grow the same as they have. Because without that growth, it's my opinion, my own personal opinion, that is detrimental to the regional capacity, especially since we are the closest neighbors to Boardman. So I really think that, if you look at a big picture, I think a move for Oregon to be able to establish its foothold and then grow exponentially and in accordance with is probably in the long term the best suited option. So that's.
Mr. Chair, being candid, I think we just need more conversation on this. And if you'll let staff work with the two services and try to work to a resolution. Never get back.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director. Anything else on that?
Mr. Smith, this is Mike Hughes, Fire Chief of the Boardman of Fire. Can I make a comment, given that it's kind of an open session?
Please, Mike.
Yeah, so my position is fairly simple. I have a contract with the CDA to provide fire protection service there now. That alone negates the ORS that Mr. Palmquist and Mr. Roberts are talking about. So from my position, I don't know why we're arguing when I have a contract to provide protection for that property. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. So noted.
Mr. Chair, while this issue has been a long-term issue, the issue that's before us has just recently come up. And so again, if you'll just give your staff a little bit of time to work through this now, some communication, we'll bring it back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, please.
I'm thinking about what Chief Roberts said in the beginning, that they want to annex all that property. Is that mean the entire CDA property into Irrigan, or what exactly was
On the
that?
Morrow County side.
Into the
Yeah,
fire district?
into our fire district, correct.
Okay.
Again, staff will work with them and have the continuing conversations. What I'm understanding, right? Is that correct? Okay, thank you. All right. Next item number C, Cleveland Farming, and I'll either look to Greg or to Steve Williams, who happens to be here, and look forward to your report.
Yeah, I just shared with the board that the Cleveland Farming lease agreement, just been a long-standing lease with the CDA, was set to expire on November 30th. With that said, I extended a 6th amendment to the sublease to buy us another year. The issue that's really holding us up is we just need to hear back from Umatilla County on a few things.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Steve, or you're good?
Thank you for your work.
Thank you very much. Staff update, Greg?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, board members, Debbie is still out until January 17th. And I have not communicated with her, and so I'm under the impression she'll return on January 17th. Emily, who has been just absolutely fabulous in stepping up to the plate. She is now working 30 hours a week and carrying multiple jobs upon her shoulders. I do want to share with you, and this will be a conversation for the board. But I posted a job opening for a bookkeeper. Sorry, my voice, it's crackling. It's been there 5 times. We have posted a job opening for a bookkeeper on our website and have sent the job description over to the East Oregon to have them advertise for us. One of the things I did in the job description is work with the Port of Morrow. The Port of Morrow is absolutely fabulous in assisting us. In addition, I took responsibilities as I saw them in current agreements and tried to make sure we matched up skill sets.
Okay.
So does that mean that they will no longer do the books for the CDA?
The Port of Morrow?
Right.
That's a board decision.
So what's the position for bookkeeper? What's that one we're doing?
So. Please.
So the port handles the grant and every expense that goes through the grant, and this would handle like the ODOT project or the, explosion site and Oregon Trail site type things that are coming in and out. Just our bank account, CDA bank account mostly. And our QuickBooks.
That answer your question, Commissioner?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd add to that, in the environment that the CDA is kind of operating under right now, it's nice to have these fiduciary controls in place, so you folks know you're secure.
Great, thanks. Anything else on the staff update?
I've got a couple questions. I don't know where this would fall. I'm looking at the agenda and I assume we were going to discuss this. I watched the Port of Morrow's last meeting and you talked about the Army or somebody doing it. I couldn't quite hear what was being said. It looked like we were under investigation.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I don't believe I ever used that word.
Well, do you know what I'm talking about? There was somebody investigate, was somebody coming in and looking at the CDA operations?
What I would share with you is we are going through a compliance review, which is an activity that entities such as ours go through.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to informational reports with possible work session. So, we have a CDA audit and a representation letter. And, Greg, do you want to speak to that or?
There you are. Hey, would it be okay, Mr. Chair, if I invited her up?
Oh, please, yes, and remind us of your name again.
Rebecca Ramos. I'm
Thank
from
you.
Anderson Boiler Ramos.
Thank you.
I'm one of the owners of Anderson Boiler Ramos. I am not the shareholder who signed this report. That's Cameron Anderson. But I did majority of the work on it, and so I was in the this.
Do you mind if I prep this a little bit?
Please, yeah.
So this is
We're talking
not-
about the audit, are we not?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
This is not a requirement of the Columbia Development Authority. This is not a requirement. The Port of Morrow handles our grant, and they go through an audit process of which we're a small piece of that. The reason I ordered this, gosh, 4 or 5 months ago, as we were starting to have conversations about division, I wanted to know financially exactly where we were. And so, as the director, I ordered an audit, and these are the findings.
Thank you.
And so just to be clear, CDA, as we're talking about in the audit, this is the entity that owns the land that was given to them from the federal government. This has nothing to do with the OLDCC grant. That is run through the Port of Morrow. They get audited by themselves. They have a single audit, which a major federal program, they look at that grant. That is where payroll is run through. That is where everything that goes through that grant is ran through. None of that is in this audit. This audit, we have lease revenues from the land. We have, let me actually look at the. Mostly it was just lease income and contributions from members. Expenses were kind of miscellaneous. We had some electric charges, insurance, the professional fees, some of the legal fees that are paid through the CDA, and then repayment of the promissory note of the $906,000 to buy less than fair market value land. So it's a little bit weird how this entity is operating, in my opinion, just because we have these two, when you talk about CDA, it's kind of like CDA over here and CDA over here. This audit is on the entity that owns the land. And the reason that we had it is because it doesn't say that the was required an audit, but the Department of the Army did require annual financial statements from a certified public accountant because there's specific laws on how you can spend that money that you're getting from the land that was given to you for less than fair.
Rebecca and Greg, can I just interject here that we're in an interesting transition period because we did the transfer last March, I think March 20th of 2023 in the Pentagon. Prior to that, all of this was done through the Department of Defense, through the BRAC process, and they would say, this is how much money you have, how did you spend it? Now we're moving into the shared portion where we have 80-20, which will become 60-40, which will become 40-60, which will become 20-80 as we move on. So that this is a new process as I understand it, because previously we had money and we were just being asked, how did you spend the money that we thought was legitimate for you to have? Is that correct?
So the reason you're having this audit and where I did the compliance, talking about how you're spending the money earned on that property conveyed to you, it's because you have the land now and you have income from the land. Before you didn't have the land, so you didn't have income that was subject to these requirements that the Army separate meeting.
So, thank you. That was very responsive. I appreciate that.
So now I guess I'm curious, so are we required to have the audit or are we not required to have the audit?
I was looking at this from the department. So the Department of the Army requires this, so the annual financial statements certified by an independent account. So yeah, you're required to have an audit.
Okay.
Can we follow up with that?
It says submit financial statement certified by an independent certified public accounting firm with a CPA's audit report. This is from the Department of Army. This is dated.
Mr. Chair, what I would share with you is the Port of Morris audit.
A little bit louder.
What I would
And
share
heard
with
you
you
say
is
it the first time, but you gotta say it again.
Yeah, what I want to share with you is the Port of Morals audit serves as that audit that covers that requirement.
So this is more than a line item, but not significantly more than a line item.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that, and I'm sorry, I think that it is required. Because there's statements in the back of here talking about how you're spending that money, and those are required by the Army. There are separate requirements, I'm sure, by the OLDC grant that I didn't look at.
Mr. Chair, I'd share with you, your staff is proactive in ordering an audit.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
That sounds great.
The bid was given, you had plenty of time, and sometimes we get these really late. It was given in plenty of time, we're able to bid, a year ago, so, yes.
Now, if I could add, because as the chair, I'm being asked by the press. So the question is from a person saying, I understand that you're supposed to have an audit. There was an audit. The audit said that you weren't in compliance. The answer was, we're in the midst of a lawsuit, those sorts of things. And so you're saying we have to have an audit. And you're saying that the audit that or the budget that was put together by the Port of Morrow that is audited is not the same thing as what you are going to move very actively on getting for us in the immediate future.
That's exactly
All right, great. Okay.
That's exactly correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, so in this audit, if, I don't know if the board had any questions on it, if you went through it, there was a finding on the budget not being adopted. That is, again, has nothing to do with the LLC's grant. I did look at that. That's the Port of Morrow that goes through there. This is for income received from leasing the land, the HB 2017 project, anything that runs through the CDA bank account.
My understanding is that the process is propose, approve, adopt. And none of that was able to happen because in the midst of us going through the process of saying, where are we going to get some income? And having directed the staff to do purchases, leases that would result in income to the CDA. We ended up in the midst of a lawsuit that precluded that from happening because we continued to be there. So it's fair. I empathize with the staff in being able to put together a budget because we have no real ability to go out and get any income beyond the contributions of the partners. B, we have ambiguity about which partners are going to pay, whether this is a 5-member board or a 2-member board or a 3-member board. And so I don't know how you put together a budget that can be proposed, approved and adopted in the midst of all of that. So,
Yeah, and I'm
Well,
sure that.
and you're not that person.
What was that?
And you're not that person.
Yeah, that's not my job to say why, it's just to say what.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, please.
if I could, so this is JD, if I'm reading this right, it's asking for a 24 budget, correct?
Correct.
So June 24 to June 25. So I guess the question is, I remember I was asking for a budget, why there wasn't a budget well before there was ever a dissolution of the distribution of the lands. I mean, this was in January, February, and even into March. And where there was a budget, and then we were told that there wasn't a budget and it was part of the grant application. And so that, I mean, there was all kinds of conversations about that. And then there was also a request for a budget back in December from the notes as well, from the board meetings. So this is a multiple kind of knowing that this has been going on for a long time. So it's not just like, I just want to make sure that's on the record that the cause, the non-compliance, I mean, there are issues there. I don't disagree with that in order to be able to get work done, but there also needs to get work done in order, and there's been a request for a budget to be completed for these non-grant programmatic income dollars and expenditures for a long time, well before there was ever the March 26 motion.
I remember, JD, when you made that comment, and I appreciate you reiterating it again for the record. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, the challenge we have had as staff is building a budget, not understanding what the needs of the CDA are going to be. So my intention, excuse me, my mouth's dry, was to have an audit completed and then take that audit and have a budget built off of it.
Yeah.
That's our intention.
All right, great, thank you.
I got a question.
Please.
So going on with JD there, I don't know, it's just a draft that Rebecca's provided and it, I don't have it in front of me. The computer won't go there, but it states that the lawsuit was going on and so the budget wasn't done for this reason. But that's, JD just said, that's not accurate.
No, it doesn't say that. So I don't say why it happened. We just say that it did happen and what is being done to fix it. So,
Well, there's something in there that's not, didn't seem accurate to me when I read it. It's-
okay, so can you find?
I don't have that. Yeah, I can't get there.
Mr. Chair, if I could too. So I'm reading this exactly. Budget law to adopt budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024 or June 30, 2025, which means there was not a budget from June 30, 2023 to June 30, 2024. So this is a non-compliance for a budget from the last fiscal year, which is 23 to 24, as well as a lack of budget from 24 to 25. So the cause, 2 lines down, states the non-compliance occurred during the board not being able to estimate revenues and expenditures. Fine, we can still work through that. As well as due to threatening and ongoing lawsuits, the 23 budget and even the adoption of the 24 budget probably should not have been as part of that. That's not a cause that should have prevented the 23 or the 24 budget from being adopted.
Mr. JD Tubby is correct.
That was my point.
He is
Thank you, JD.
Yep.
That's what I was reading.
Okay, so JD, you're getting affirmative nods by the director and by Commissioner Taylor, so. Thank you.
So that's on page 32 of the audit. It is the cause. That cause kind of comes from you guys, so if you would like me to change that. Change it. Is there?
One step.
Do you just want that last, as well as due to threatened and ongoing lawsuits taken out?
Mr.
Please, Greg.
Mr. Chair. I will own this comment. Yes,
I couldn't quite, could you repeat that?
I will own this comment.
All right, thank
So
you.
I don't know that we need that decision right today, but maybe if we could send you our thoughts on that.
Perfect.
To
That's
see
great.
how that is remedied.
Whatever we can do to work together to get this done so that we can end up with a clean audit, reasonable budget going forward, so that we've got income and expenses that are predictable and reliable, and we can give the staff something that they can work on and parameters within. We've got this road project coming up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, a lot of work, and thank you. All right, thank you so much. Moving on to item number B. And I think I can discuss carefully this portion without being in an executive session. So I've been working with, I'll wait for just a second. Commissioner Joe Taylor and I have been working together because he represents a large organization with a lot of personnel. And we've been working on coming up with both a CEO evaluation form and an evaluation procedure. So Commissioner Taylor, I'm going to look to you as to the forum, the conversations we have, so forth.
Okay, so yes, moving forward on that, I just took the form that the court uses to evaluate their CEO. And then we didn't have exactly procedures in there, but I took examples of procedures from another district and just wrote them up. And it seemed like it would fit us adequately for what we need to do.
So when Commissioner Taylor and I got together, our intent was to work to get something that would be viable enough that we could get buy-in from the other members of the board. That would work for our purposes so that we can have a highly performing CEO and staff and have a fair and open opportunity to talk about how that performance has been going. So that was our intent, and that's the progress we've made so far. Well, we're on item number C. Greg, if you would address the CDA policy.
Yeah, Board, first of all, I want to thank Morrow County and the Port of Morrow for getting suggestions back to us on possible changes to the handbook. We'd ask if the other three partners could assist us in that effort. We want to make sure that whatever policy changes are adopted have been vetted by all of you.
Okay, thank you.
And we would like to have you send it to your attorneys and have your attorneys send it back to us with any recommendations.
When is your time frame for getting that stuff all lined out?
So we handed this out on September 22nd. Our hope was to have it at the October meeting. That didn't occur, and so we're now asking again. So,
Okay. I can tell you, I think our attorney said this is the CDA's to figure out,
right,
not for court attorney.
and what we can do is we'll forward it on. I just wanted to make sure you five had input of things you wanted, and we'll send it off.
I'm quite certain we're fine.
And then, Joe, we will bring back that version for you folks to go through a final review.
Okay.
Yeah.
So item number D, in reading over the agenda this time, Commissioner Schaefer, I read through what your intent is. I'm a bit confused because the last time we met, there was a conversation about you were going to present to us a solution that, if I'm not mistaken, you said that would excite everyone. And so I went back to my board. I have two of my commissioners here so as to not create a quorum. And so what we were here is to hear what the solution is. And so I'm a bit confused about why it's on the agenda as a motion. So we're here to hear what the solution is that the people are going to be excited about.
Yeah. So prior to March 26th, we worked together as a board functioning. We were doing just fine. Obviously, that's when things came off the rails, was March 26th. And I know for the Port of Morrow, it's important that you have the 640 acres free and clear so that you can do what you need to do with that 640 acres. And recognize that the Port of Morrow and Morrow County have entered an agreement in the past that the port would handle all the land. That has never happened on our side of the border of the county line between Morrow County or Umatilla County and the Port of Umatilla. So, and CTUIR. You and I and Mr. Blanc did sit down and we hammered out a deal that I said was acceptable to Umatilla County. Unfortunately, the next meeting that was pulled out from under us. So, and that's when the March 26th vote occurred. So our solution would be to, one, we rescind the lawsuit. We pull that off the table, that's gone. And then going forward, only people who have property on the Morrow County side get to decide what happens to the property on Morrow County side, including the 640 acres. Same thing for Umatilla County. Only those who have property on the Umatilla County side would decide how that property gets divided on the Umatilla County side. And then going forward from that, you know, we would also drop our lawsuit, thank you. And we would also pay any, thank you for that, by the way, Lisa. So we would also pay anything that Umatilla County is on the hook for at this point going forward. And I think that would get us, and of course, it would also rescind the motion from March 26th. And I think that going forward would put us back on solid footing, that we could go forward with building roads, getting infrastructure in here. And not only that, but again, working as a solid unit and trying to be productive versus having this lawsuit hanging over our heads and everything else. Because like I said, you and I didn't have that same agreement that the Port of Morrow and Morrow County have. That's never been a thing on our side of the county line. So for us, I think it's important for us to be able to have some of that property as well as the CTOIR. So that's why I made the motion the way I did. And that, so I can read that motion if you'd like.
Can I ask a question before?
Yeah, please.
Because you're talking about making a motion, right?
Yep.
You know, and as I recall from our last meeting, that the consensus was that you were gonna come with a proposal. And I assumed that your proposal would have some solutions to the land distribution.
Yep.
Which really, basically, you're saying rescind the vote and you're gonna drop the lawsuit. There's nothing in between here to figure out how the land, what your proposal would be of how the land.
It would.
Can I finish?
Sure.
Would be divided up. So the way I understood is that from your proposal, we would then have the opportunity to go back to our respective wards, to review that, maybe make some changes or revisions to it, or some counter proposals. And also to have an opportunity to review this with our legal counsel. And if you make the motion now, we're not gonna have that opportunity if your motion passes. And so I'm asking that maybe we step back and go through that process before we make a motion. I mean, there's other issues we haven't talked about. There's nothing here that talks about enterprise zones. There's nothing here that talks about who's gonna pay when some of the entities aren't paying right now. So, I mean, I think there's a lot more questions that need to be answered. And I think we need to kind of step back and give us an opportunity to review it with our boards, and also with our legal counsel, and maybe consider some other things that maybe should be in this. I'm done.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So there's nothing right now in place for enterprise zones either. I mean, there's absolutely, we haven't had that discussion whatsoever. So today or before March 26th, that hasn't been an issue before. So that's never been there. And as far as who pays in the future, Umatilla County is willing to pay our fair share going forward. But when we were removed completely from anything, we have no recourse to, you know, any way to recoup our losses for the igloo site and the explosion site or any of that stuff. We have no way to recoup those outgoing dollars for Umatilla County the way it currently is. That's why I want that motion rescinded, so we have some ability to pay our debts.
Commissioner?
Yeah.
Prior to March 26th, we did have a process in place, which is that we had asked the director to go ahead and lease and sell some properties that were in high demand at the time.
Sure.
And that would have been able to, the way I just use the phrase is pay the bills for the next 5 or 6 years for the CDA. So that would have been addressed prior to the time that the lawsuit came up. So.
I'm glad you said that, because that would go right back to that. By rescinding that vote, it would go back to exactly what you just described.
It could go back to that if the lawsuit was dropped.
That's part of the motion. That's literally in here. That gets dropped, the March 26th vote gets rescinded. Everything goes back to the way it was on March 25th. With the added caveat that we don't meddle in what happens in the Morrow County side of the line. They don't need us telling them how to divide up their land on their side of the county line. That's where that came into play.
I see.
I think even though there haven't been enterprise zones proposed, I think it's a discussion that should take place and should be a part of this proposal. Where there is, even if it's an agreement with the county or the tribe or whatever, then at least we have an understanding. And there is nothing in here that talks about any of the issues of timing, how any of this, how this is supposed to occur either. And so that's why I'm saying,
But
it needs to go back to the tribal council board. It needs to go back to the more,
No,
I mean,
I-
to have an opportunity to provide more input on this. And maybe make some changes of things that each one of these boards maybe want to see included in here before we just, come up with a motion. We need the chance to digest this a little
See,
bit.
you're
with our
making
boards.
my argument for me. All the timelines that you're referring to, were already in place. We have that agreement with the Army. We have that agreement already in place. We had that prior to March 26th.
Well,
Those
then
were
you're
already
getting
there.
into issues with the lawsuit.
Again, the lawsuit's gone. That's the first thing they'll do. I call my attorneys and say, drop the lawsuit. That's in the motion. That's literally right there. It goes away.
I know, but I still think we should have an opportunity to bring this to our boards and to discuss this, to see, maybe there's something here that none of us have thought about.
That's
Maybe
what I
there's
said on
something
March
here
26th.
That, well, I can't go back to March 26th. But it may, to me, that's what I thought we were gonna get, and to me, that makes sense.
Commissioner Schaefer, if we take this to a motion, I'm the member of the board that represents the Port of Umatilla. And I think you already know how I'm going to vote,
Oh, I do.
because I don't have the authority from the commissioners, which I didn't have on March 26th either.
Hold on. You did or did not?
I did not.
Because you told me you had, your board ordered you 5-0 to vote that way. That's exactly what you said that day.
You're misspeaking. Commissioner, I have to vote the way my commission directs me to. And I voted that way based on 30 years of history, precedent and expectation, and ORS 777, and the same kind of philosophy that exists on the Morrow County side of the line. That Morrow County respects the responsibilities of the Port of Morrow, the way the Port of Umatilla would expect from Umatilla County, but we don't get that same respect. Notwithstanding
You
the
used to.
millions and millions and millions of dollars that have redounded to the county over the last decade because of businesses that we have cited within the port district.
So when we sat down and we hammered out a deal that you rescinded on, you said that your board voted 5-0 to take that deal that you and I had hammered out away.
And I immediately spoke to you after the vote and said, I will work with you, I will work with you, I will work with you.
Okay,
And to
now
quote
we're
you
just
from last
rehashing.
week, to quote you from the last time, I dealt with you in bad faith. That's what you said. So I've always been willing to work with you. Drop the lawsuit. You can get in the room with Commissioner Blanc. You can talk to me about it. But
The
you're not going to
lawsuit's
do
part
that.
of this motion.
But you're not going to do that. You're not going to drop the lawsuit, period, because you're too
You're putting
resistant.
words in my mouth, sir. I said, and it's right here in black and white, that we will drop the lawsuit. It's literally in this motion that we will drop the lawsuit if these other conditions are met. So you're sitting there saying, I'm not willing to drop the lawsuit. I am. It's right here in black and white. You
Just
have it
drop
in front
the
of you.
lawsuit. Just drop the lawsuit. Commissioner Simpson, please.
Might be talking on it. That's all great. As soon as you started the lawsuit, we had to quit talking to anybody. Couldn't talk to you, our council said no. And I wanna know, as a taxpayer in this county, as most of you are, here we got a deal, one county group suing other county groups. You know, the loser isn't this whole deal. It's the taxpayers of Umatilla County, and Morrow County, and I'll tell you what, this can all be known before the next election on some of the people involved.
And that's fine, and I understand that. And,
Okay.
but this right here would solve all those issues.
After it's all blown up.
Okay. I know. Unfortunately, you are correct.
Okay, that's a interesting dialogue. We're gonna move on to the work session, number 6.
So actually, I'd like to go back to this, Mr. Chair. I don't think we came to a resolution on this. So if this goes back to the respective boards for consideration, can it come back for a motion and a vote?
I have no idea what the other elected officials I work for are gonna say. I have no idea.
Well, I'm asking you as the board chair, because you're the one who says what can go on the agenda and what cannot go on the agenda. So that's why I'm asking, directing that question to you.
Commissioner, we voted on this. We reaffirmed the vote. What do you think the likelihood is of us doing the same thing 3 times is?
Okay, again, you just said, as did one of your board members, you'd like this lawsuit to go away.
We would,
This is a resolution to make
it's
that
as
lawsuit
simple
go
as
away.
you pick up the phone and just call the attorney and say, lawsuit's over.
Just like it would be for you to rescind the March 26th vote. This is a compromise that I think would work for everybody in the room.
That's, okay, that, your opinion's on the record.
Okay, so with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion that the Columbia Development Authority takes the following action. 1, rescind the March 26th, 2024 vote to convey CDA property to the Port of Morrow and the Port of Umatilla and the CTUIR, and the subsequent vote by the CDA to ratify the March 26th, 2024 vote. 2, the CDA will distribute the CDA property as decided by the parties existing in each county. The Morrow County property will be transferred as determined by Morrow County, the Port of Morrow, and the CTUIR. The property will consist of 1, Tract A and Tract B, Zone Port Industrial, approximately 1,900 acres. 2, Tract C, Zone EFU, approximately 634 acres, plus 3, those portions of the 4,019 acres of Tract I, Zone Wildlife Habitat located within Morrow County. The Umatilla County property will be transferred as determined by Umatilla County, the Port of Umatilla, and the CTUIR. The property will consist of Tract F, Tract G, Tract G2, Tract H, Zone Depot Industrial, plus those portions of the 4,019 acres of Tract I, Zone Wildlife Habitat located within Umatilla County. 3, all litigation will be dismissed with prejudice, with each entity paying its own costs and attorney fees. That, Mr. Chair, is my motion.
I don't understand, the portion from B on down. So who are you saying the property is going to, John?
I'm sorry, which piece?
From item B, who gets which tracks? I'm not following.
We're not saying who gets what track. It goes back to the CDA, just like it was before March 26th. And in going forward, if there's gonna be any discussion about who gets what land, only the people in the Umatilla County side will decide that.
Okay, that's the motion.
That's the motion.
There's been a motion, you've heard that. Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded. Why don't we do a roll call, Emily? No?
Joe,
No.
Jeff,
No.
John,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion fails. Thank you, and move on to the work session.
Can I say something? With this motion, John, I will take this back to my board.
I appreciate that, but it sounds like, I don't think the chair is gonna bring it back another
Well,
time. But I
yeah.
really respect and appreciate that.
Yeah,
So,
I'll definitely take it.
yeah, thank you. You're willing to work with us.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Just one second, JD, we've got a
Okay.
conversation. Yep, I'll get to you.
During our next POC, I'll hand this out to the other commissioners and their input and stuff, but.
Okay.
And I would like to correct something that you have said, and maybe you don't mean it this way, but this is the way I took it. There's not an explicit agreement between Morrow County and the port on this. We've never had an official agreement.
Oh,
It's
my
just-
apologies.
It's just our belief, I think Kim kind of paraphrased, is that we have faith in what the port has done in the past in our county. So we have the faith that to turn the property over to them and to develop it and then be for the benefit of all of Morrow County. So I just want to make it clear that there is not an agreement between Morrow County.
No, that was my impression that there was, and if there's not an agreement, then I take that back. and
I just wanted
apologize.
that
Thank you for
on the
clearing
record.
that. Yeah, no, thank you for clearing that up. I thought there was, so my mistake. So-
Thank you. And JD had a comment. Please, JD.
In light of that, the failure, and sounds like other people are interested in taking this back to their boards. I would like to make a motion that the CDA partners take this proposal back to their boards for discussion to bring back for the December meeting.
I would second that.
I would agree that we will take this back to our board. I think we can do it.
We're
Like
gonna
I
do
said,
that.
I don't think we need a motion. I mean, we've all agreed to do it.
Oh, I believe that, but my fear is that it won't come back on the agenda in December, and I think that's where Mr. Tucker was going.
JD has made a motion. Is there a second? Did you second?
I did second it,
Okay.
yes.
Motion and second that each member of the board will take the motion back to the respective entities that they represent. And Emily, if you please do the roll call.
Second,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Yes,
JD,
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
thank you, JD, I appreciate that.
What do we need to do on the Bank of Eastern Oregon check centers? I know I'm a signatory.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. The Bank of Eastern Oregon checking account currently has the following signers on: Kim Pusey, John Schaefer, Jeff Winholtz, JD Tubby, and Kelly Doherty. We need a motion to remove Kelly Doherty from the CDA bank account and replace her with Joe Taylor.
Make the motion to replace Kelly Doherty as the check signer and replace her with Joe Taylor as the board's representative.
You heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we have the signatures on the bank account up to date by those who represent their respective entities. And Emily, if you please do a roll call.
Kim,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Thank you. All right, for the good of the order, anybody else have anything else they'd like to share or say?
Did we skip the road update and possible line of credit?
What was that?
Did we skip something?
Oh, I got two. Or, oh, yes, I did. I didn't see that. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. The road update, possible line of credit, please, Greg.
Yeah, as you heard earlier from IRZ consultant and Anderson Perry, we are very close to be able to begin road construction. One of the items that the CDA is going to need in order to meet the cash flow needs of the project is a line of credit. On this, the way this project works, it's a reimbursement base from the state, or we may be able to build. Let me step back. We are going to be able to build directly to the state, but there is a gap in time that perhaps we may go beyond 30 days, it could be 45 or 60. And we don't believe it's fair to the contractors to be hung out. Well, we need to get payment.
And how much would you think that would need to be?
I mean, based upon what I'm thinking, it's probably about 2.5 million.
So that would get the construction started
Yeah, let me.
and alleviate that time
That
gap.
gap. Right. And, hopefully we never have to use this. Hopefully we don't have to. And the state will pay on a timely schedule. So we submit our invoices, the state reviews them, then they pay them. What I'm concerned about, and maybe I don't need to be concerned, is that we're gonna get into this and that repayment is gonna go 30 days. It's gonna go 45, it's gonna go 60. And all of a sudden now we have local contractors perhaps who are now being the bank for the CDA.
Right. And how would you go about getting that line of credit?
Traditionally, what we've used in the past is the Bank of Eastern Oregon. We've had $1 million letter of credit with the bank. And it'd be a minimal to do this.
Would it be the same process where each entity needs to commit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And keep in mind, the road is gonna be split 50-50. Both sides.
Thank you. For the good of the order, and as part of that, I would like us to discuss the date for our December meeting. I need to let you know that I will not be in town the 14th through the 19th. I'd propose either the 20th or the 23rd. You know, because otherwise we're talking about having such a wonderful thing on Christmas Eve. This was
Special sessions may hold on the 12th.
Okay.
I'm at a conference the 18th through the 20th.
Okay. 23. Anybody want to do it on the 23rd, which is a Monday?
I'm available if it's later in the afternoon.
Okay. And then I can do later than 1 or in the afternoon.
Probably after 1:30, probably at the earliest, I'll be available.
20th going once, twice,
23rd.
23rd. Thank you, John.
I know I won't be available on the 23rd.
I can go back as early as the 11th, but you've got a special session on the 12th. So how about the 11th? That I have a commission meeting on the 10th, so I could keep my commitment that we made by taking this back to my board.
I wouldn't be available, but I mentioned Dave.
The 11th,
Correct.
Commissioner Schaefer, the 11th,
I can do the 11th.
Director Smith,
I'll make it work.
okay. Commissioner Taylor, 11th.
I can make that.
Okay, Emily, if you wouldn't mind.
Did JD say yes to the 11th? I didn't hear.
JD, did you say yes if it was after 1:30 on the 11th?
On the 11th, I'm available the afternoon of the 11th.
Okay, about 1 o'clock on the 11th. Would
That works.
work, Emily? Thank you
That
so
works.
much, Ola. All right. Commissioner Taylor has some
So
questions.
if we could go back, I was looking at my thing when we talked about when we were talking about the audit draft and such. Was there any action? There was no action today, just getting your comments for the audit. draft. Is that
I
correct?
think it'd be better for us to wait 30 days prior to taking action, give everyone a chance to read it, and give me the chance to send out an explanation on it.
Okay.
So will that come up on the December meeting or no?
So we had questions at the port of the actual, is a budget required? I think you talked with Eileen this morning or yesterday. It's confusing. So I'm looking really for the CDA's attorney or somebody to enlighten us also.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, that was a little bit of the pre-game jitters on our end, is we
Yeah.
weren't sure if we were required to do it or not.
Right.
So it sounds like we've now received direction. So
Yeah,
my intent was to take that to Schwabi and have them give us final direction.
yeah, so Eileen at the Port of Morrow, and I think what Ray was bringing up too was there's different budget laws and ORS 294316, you're not subject to, but there's another one that you are subject to, and it almost looked about the same. I didn't read them very detailed because it didn't matter. I didn't need to check dates. So 294.900 through 294.930. Looks like those are the budget laws that the finding is based on. So if you can find something that says you are not subject to that, I mean, it's fully fine. Like if I can see something, we can take it out of the audit. We don't get paid based on findings or anything like that. So
I got 294.930. What's the first one?
294.900 through 294.930.
900 through 930. Okay.
And so Joe, that represented the confusion
Right,
in the statements.
okay.
Yeah, so I think it's very clear that you're not subject to 294.316, which I looked at the report because I was confused on that as well. Like I did a ton of research on this because it was very confusing. There's not a ton of IGAs related to follow, they're all different. So I did put that a little bit more clear in the report. Let me find the correct page, because I thought I noted it. So on page 15, under budget procedures, it lists those ORSs that we're saying that the CDA needs to.
One last statement on this issue, guys. I'd like Rebecca to know your firm's been awesome.
Thank
You've
you.
been very professional, you've been very patient. So thank you.
What happened on the evaluation form? I wasn't paying attention. Once I stopped talking.
We talked about, you and I had met.
Yeah.
That you have a form. We're working on the process, and that's going to need to be responsive to the board and the director, so that we can know we're making progress. We have a procedure to go through. Okay.
Are you looking for input from other entities on that? On the procedure for the evaluation?
Not necessarily, we can talk about how.
I think the way it's presented is fair.
All right.
I got sorry. I was gonna ask about the payments from Umatilla County during this last review. Where do we stand on that? I think that the last meeting, the CTUI was up to date, but Umatilla County wasn't. Am I accurate in saying that?
I do not have an update. I can check back in.
I can't tell you that we have not paid. That I can tell you. I'm not gonna speak for CTUIR, but.
Sure. Well, the thing of it is that I understand your position.
Sure.
But you're here at the table, asking for motion, taking votes, proving things. So instead of a 5-entity board, we're operating fiscally like 4-entity.
And one of the things we will do is, with this motion, is we will pay all of our debts. In full.
So, Mr. Chair, one thing to consider is, in addition to Umatilla County's debts, the CDA has incurred $100,000 plus in debt that will need to be handled in one way or another.
As a defendant?
Right.
Yeah.
As the main
And
defendant.
I think that's probably true of each of the defendants. I mean, that's approximately what we're looking at. So,
And Mr. Chair, what I'd share with you is the CDA does not have those resources.
yeah. Well, and to Commissioner Simpson's point, it's the same, at least on the Umatilla side, have the same constituents being sued by the same constituents. So it's like they're getting, double penalized plus 20% if this, because the CDA is a defendant as well. So it's 2.2 times for citizens who live in the Port of Umatilla district, which is the same as Umatilla County. And it just goes on and on and on for the Port of Marl and Morrow County as well. So
Easy fix.
it's what?
It's an easy fix. We pass a motion and we pay it all and the lawsuit goes away.
Yeah. Okay, let's see, anything else?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I mean, as much as I can, I'll commit the tribe to repay the debts for our portions that we've not paid. I think our stance is that we've put an enormous amount of resources and time, our own capital, our own staff time, and for the success and the benefit of the CDA over the years. Like I said, my first meeting on this was when I was 14 years old in '87. So we've been involved with this for a very long time. And I think our position is the lands were, I mean, it was part of it as an investment for ourselves. It was part of an investment. And so then to have that investment taken away from us is what our ire is.
One of the things I'd like to highlight, and I'll need to get the dates, and the amounts. But for a period of time, C2IR was on a contract with the CDA. It wasn't a large contract, but it was a contract for a position.
Okay, all right. Thank you, JD. Anybody, anything else? Okay, enjoy your holidays. Meeting's adjourned at 2:31. Thank you so much. Greg, thank you. Appreciate your attendance, everyone. Thank you. So nice to see you. How you doing?